Hi everyone, my name is Martina. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist, and in today's video we are going to be talking about fructose intolerance. Now we see increased amount of people struggling with the fructose or being unable to eat some fruits due to intolerance. It's quite unfortunate because fruit is A, delicious, and B, it does contain and supply body with different kind of phytochemicals and micronutrients. Now, there is also some misunderstanding between intolerance and allergy, and what is the difference really between those two. And this misunderstanding is even more emphasized by the fact that the symptoms of both are very similar, and typically it's caused indigestion or belly pain, bloating, diarrhea. Really, sometimes it can be skin rashes or itching, even severe. And so both of them are announcing themselves through the same symptoms, but the fundamental difference between those two is that allergy is reaction of the immune system to certain proteins, while intolerance is basically inability of the body to process certain compounds, right? Now, when we talk about fruit intolerance, it can be either inborn or it can develop sometimes later in the adulthood or even teenage years, right? And the inborn one is not that common, fortunately. And most often we see the intolerance being occurring either during the teenage years or even any time in the adulthood. Now, fundamentally, all intolerances really, not only the fruit intolerance, they are pointing out to gut. There is a common denominator across the board, and that is the gut issue. And most importantly, disturbed lining or lining, mucosal lining permeability, that the mucus in the small intestine or in the large intestine is somewhat disturbed. And this is causing fructose being a troublesome symptom or troublesome factor, really, right? Now, the fructose intolerance can be quite well handled and treated, I mean, if it is appropriately targeted or if it is really handled by the person in timely manner. And so what do I mean by that? Now, if we experience some digestive issues after eating sort of fruit, it could point to fructose intolerance. Now, and it doesn't really mean that if you once have some issue after eating a pear or apple, then would be your fructose intolerant. No, these issues have to persist for a longer period of time. Now, if it is targeted or if it is addressed quite early, then it is very good chance it can be completely reversed. But if it is not targeted or not addressed early, it can develop into different health conditions which we do not want. We can see later on dysbiosis, which is imbalance between the good and not so good bacteria in the gut. It can happen that we will experience, in addition, some other intolerances, such as lactose intolerance, for example. It's quite common with a fructose intolerance or sorbit intolerance, right? And this is not what we want. So if it is addressed quite early in the stage, before it becomes a severe condition, then there is a great chance that you'll be able to reverse and heal it completely. Will everybody be able to do that? Most likely not. It's strongly depending on individual situation, individual health condition, if there is anything else health-wise going on with the person, what is the overall nutrition style, are there any other allergies, etc. What is the medication which is being taken. So there are a lot of stuff which need to be taken into the consideration when targeting or trying to heal a person, right? But it can be done. Now, what other thing can happen with fructose intolerance is that it can cause, if it's not really handled in the timely manner, it can cause deficiencies, micronutrient deficiencies, and most importantly, zinc and folate. Now, zinc is, when we are deficient in zinc, the first sign to see if you might be zinc deficient is the white spots on the nail. So if you have the nails with white spots, there is a great chance that you are zinc deficient. Now, you can see also quality of the skin decreasing, hair falling out in the more severe way than normally that it was previously. And with a long-term severe deficiency of zinc, it can cause also infertility. Now, when we come to folate, folate deficient people tend to be more depressed, easily irritated and annoyed. Really, they can have issues with the sleeping. And so these are the first signs that you might be deficient in this kind of micronutrient, in case you do experience fructose intolerance or some indigestion after consumption of fruits, right? Now, intolerance to fruits or fructose can be connected only to certain type of fruits, such as apples or pears or plums. And a person can eat, for example, berries, or it can be to all fruits, that even the fruits with low amount of fructose are simply causing a trouble. It can be that even avocado is causing a trouble, while the berries are still fine for the person, not causing any issues. So it can have so many nuances, and it's so very individual, case by case, that it's, I mean, very difficult to put everything into the one bucket, because we are all unique, and there are so many variabilities that can happen with a person, and everything is connected to everything. So it's really depending on overall health state of an individual, right? So in case we'd like to address this, we would most probably be going on with a phased approach. I do recommend phased approach in this kind of fructose intolerance. Now, what does that mean? That in the first phase, we are going to be recovering gut through the food and through elimination of certain food. And through eating other food, right? We're going to come into that a little bit later. This first phase is really dedicated to heal and recover the intestinal mucosa, the intestinal lining, which is fundamentally causing the issue, right? Since it is not intact, the fructose is causing the issue, while if it was healthy, the person would not have any trouble. So this first phase is dedicated really to recovering and healing the gut. And the second phase, we're going to be starting to include a little bit of fructose to see how are we standing, how well is the gut healed, right? So how should we really approach this? So in the first phase, we need to, as I have said, eliminate a lot of stuff. And a lot of stuff would be fundamentally that which is causing us an issue. And that is the fruits, fresh one, all of those, or dried fruits, because dried fruit is also containing fructose, right? So this would be the first thing which we would need to be consequently eliminating and avoiding. Second thing would be fruit juices, obviously, jams and marmalades and pastries and cookies, and actually everything sweet, because even the regular refined sugar does contain 50% of fructose. right? And so everything which is sweet and has some amount of fruits in there needs to be eliminated during this phase while we're going to be recovering and healing our gut, right? The third thing would be also honey and maple syrup, which do contain fructose, and definitely would be agave syrup and corn syrup, right? These are nearly 100% fructose, well, 98% fructose. So these high fructose syrups have to be eliminated and avoided completely as well, right? So that would be number three, I guess. Now, when we're doing a groceries and we are trying to heal our gut with and experiencing fructose intolerance, we have to read the labels, and we have to learn to read the labels, not only during the fructose intolerance, but we need to pay attention what this in the products we are buying, because fructose is hidden in so many things where you would not be even thinking of finding it. And so things like sauces or dressings and tomatoes products. The obvious one, which I have not mentioned, is fruit yogurt, really. So there is always a fruit in there. And so also this kind of products have to be really looked at if they contain any fructose, and it needs to be stated on the package: high chrome syrup or agave syrup or anything like that, right? Now, in addition, we would need to also get rid of things that are harming our intestinal lining and gut. And this would be quite a common one: artificial sweeteners. Now, they do not contain any fructose, but they are not really helping our intestinal mucosa, right, and the gut. So that is something which you would need to eliminate as well. And finally, it would be inulin-rich vegetables. Now, there are some vegetables that do contain fructose naturally, but it's quite small amount. However, inulin, while in the healthy people, is not causing any trouble, and it is wonderful, this prebiotic, and it's feeding the healthy gut bacteria. When we are talking about a fructose intolerance, this is not what we want to eat. It does contain well, it's just a fiber that is causing us a trouble. Let's leave it at there. So inulin-rich vegetables, which are artichokes, Jerusalem artichokes, and chicory, need to be avoided during the first phase too. Now, you may think it's quite substantial list, but unfortunately, if we want to heal and recover our gut, we need to first and foremost take away everything which is working against us and which is causing the trouble. And it doesn't mean that we will have to stay without these foods forever and ever. However, in certain period of time, it would need to be eliminated and simply avoided until we come to the second phase. So now we talked about what needs to be avoided and what needs to be eliminated, since it does contain fructose or does harm gut in a different way, right? So what are the foods that are good to eat and should be eaten during the fructose intolerance when we are recovering the gut? So very low fructose is leafy greens. And since they are also quite good with water content, and they do contain the folate, which a lot of people are low in when they are having fructose intolerance. So leafy greens, dark leafy greens, such as pak choi and spinach and arugula and kale, are quite good source of micronutrients, and also healthy and quite well handled and well managed by the people who are having this kind of trouble. Secondly, it would be mushrooms. Mushrooms are a wonderful source, very low in fructose. zucchini and cucumbers. We are very rich in water, right? Now, all vegetables in general are quite fitting, with few exceptions. And these exceptions would be onions and leeks. Not that they would be high in fructose, but they can cause gas building in the gut. And since the gut is not really top notch and is compromised already, we'd like to avoid these gas building vegetables, even though healthy, for now, for the time being. So while all vegetables are quite fine, now onions and leeks we want to avoid in this first phase, right? So what else? Nuts and seeds. Also very fine with zinc, full of zinc, right? So this is very fitting and very fine to eat, oily nuts and seeds. Now potatoes is also very good. Whole grains in general, but particularly the gluten-free grains such as buckwheat and quinoa and millet are very fine. Rice is also fine. So these are very fitting grains that can be a good source of energy and calories. However, do not supply fructose, right? Now, what else to eat? Meat and fish and eggs are fine to eat if they're in a wonderful quality. If you have really good source of meat and trusted source of meat and fish and free range eggs, they are fine. However, avoid hens and avoid the sausages and avoid the raw hens because of the intestine line. It's highly acidic, it's still creating acidity, so does the meat and fish. However, there are a lot of additives in the sausages and in the hams, and this is again working against our gut health, right? So this is the reason why you want to avoid sausages and all these industrially produced meaty products, really, right? Now, what about the dairy? Well, dairy in general does not contain fructose. When we omit the fructose, fruit yogurts and all these fruit-containing sweet products. But a lot of times the gut is so compromised that the people can develop also lactose intolerance. And so in the first phase, I would advise also to avoid dairy for the time being, right? To a certain period of time. Another thing which you want to omit and not really eat is legumes. And not because of the fructose, but because of the gas building many times, right? Even though it strongly depends what kind of legumes one person eats. Perhaps lentils are less gas building than beans, for example, right? Or soy is better than the regular beans, perhaps. But in general, since it is very depending and individual, I would stay away from legumes during this first phase, right? So now we have the foods which to eat and which not to eat. Now, when you prepare your vegetables and you have perhaps weakened digestion, it is better to steam the vegetables, right? The way of preparation when you have a weakened digestion, steamed is always better than raw, and quickly stir fried is also fine to prepare. And finally would be baking, right? So steam and boiled, followed by stir fried, followed by baking in this order. Now, if you can handle raw vegetables, it's absolutely fine. Just really want to make sure that you chew the food properly. You really have to chew the food properly. The digestion of the carbohydrates starts in the mouth already, and the salivary glands and saliva is containing enzymes that are digesting the starches and carbohydrates in the mouth and prepare it for the stomach. And so this I can't emphasize enough and repeat enough for my clients to chew the food properly. And in ideal way, you want to come to 50 times when you chew each bite. Now, it is a lot, but you want to come as close to that as possible, right? Now, when you count how much you chew each bite and you come to 10, it's definitely not enough. You need to do better than that, right? And it will ease up on your digestion, definitely. And also it will help to absorb the micronutrients later in the intestines. So this is what we have to do in phase one. Now, how long do we need to be in this kind of restricted, if you will, mode in terms of nutrition and meal choices and food choices, really? And that would be really depending on the severity of the fructose intolerance in the first place, but also on what is going on else in the body, if there is any other health condition or overall health state. And so it can last sometimes from few weeks, 6, 8, or 12 weeks, or even up to a year, really, right? And the person would be able to recover fully and really restructure fully the intestinal lining, or only partially. And that is really depending individually. Now, another thing which we want to do as soon as we start to eliminate and avoid the fructose and everything which we've talked about, we want to perhaps get help from other compounds that can stimulate the recovery of the gut, right? And these would be 3, really. First of all, green grass powders. Now, if you haven't tried a green grass powder, you definitely want to have one bio in organic quality. And you want to start slow and in the low amount. This is a highly potent, nutrient-packed supplement, really, that is really alkaline, and it does supply great amount of micronutrients that are incredibly beneficial for the gut. But most importantly, it does contain proteins that stimulate the cellular regeneration in the gut and really grow all the healthy cells. And this is why it's really helpful. So when you haven't tried, start with 1 small teaspoon a day, which you mix with water and you drink it as a shot. Now, most probably it will not be the best thing you've ever drank, but it's really beneficial for the gut recovery and really the new lining, right? Creation of the new lining, recovery on the cellular level. That's what we want to achieve. So this is what you can do right when you start to eliminate all the harmful quote unquote foods, and include this one. For 3 days, you have 1 shot. After 3 days, you can increase to 2 shots or increase to 2 teaspoons in a day instead of 1, right? So you want to build up slowly because you don't want to overload your body if you haven't done that before, if you haven't tried it before. So this is important to remember. More is not better in this case. So you need to let the body get used to this highly potent healing tool. So that would be number 1, organic green grass powders. Second thing you want to use are natural clays. These are easily available in the health shops. These are available online. They are even not expensive. And again, these are compounds that you would drink with water, mix it with the water and drink it quite quickly because it gets thick. And it will help to extract the toxins from the gut as well as the entire body. That's the wonderful ability of the natural clays. Now, when we are intolerant, fructose intolerant. The fructose can't be absorbed from the small intestine and hence it lands in the large intestine where it ferments and where it's through the gut bacteria creating the gas. And this gas causes the bloating, belly pain, but it gets absorbed also to the bloodstream. And it's not really what we want, right? Because in the large intestines, that's the stuff which we eventually would get rid of, right? So whatever is eliminating, whatever is reabsorbed or gets from the large intestines to the blood, it's not desired condition. And these clays do absorb the toxins created through the gases in this particular case from the large intestine. So that is why we want to use them as well. And the rule will be exactly as with the grass shots, green grass powders. You want to start slowly. You would drink one glass of this clay in the morning on the empty stomach, wait for 20 minutes before you eat something, right? And you want to build up slowly. Eventually you can do after a week perhaps one in the morning, one glass in the morning on empty stomach, and then again in the evening after the dinner. So it does extract whatever has been created through digestion in your body, right? So that would be number two, a second help which we can get, if you will, when we are trying to heal the gut. And the third one would be probiotics. But you really want to have a good probiotics, right? Now, when you are trying to, the probiotics available on the market are containing different amount of cultures, different amount of bacteria, different amount of CFUs, right? So you want to make research because in each country there is different things available, different products available, but you want to pay attention to the freshness of the probiotics, right? So when you purchase one, you want to have as many strains of the variety of bacteria possible. And if you have a good pharmacist, they will able to advise you which probiotics are fitting for gut. Certain probiotics are really targeting the skin quality, for example, right? So good pharmacologists will be able to tell you because these are available over the counter, and but you really want to have a good quality of probiotics that can help you as you try to heal, as you start to recover the intestinal lining and the gut, repopulate the good bacteria, right? So this is the number three which you really want to do. Now, I have to say that there are no shortcuts. If you are trying to recover from the intolerance and heal the gut, there's simply no shortcuts. And by no shortcuts, I mean taking only probiotics and hoping it will resolve the issue. It will not in the long run anyway. If you try to take the potent probiotic perhaps and eliminate certain amount of foods in the first place, you may find improvement in your condition temporarily, but if you stop doing the food and if you really start to eat the food again and hoping the probiotics will resolve the issue, it will not. This is simply how our body not works. There are simply no shortcuts, and we need to do our part also in the nutrition. So this would be all in the phase one. We want to eliminate certain foods, we want to include certain foods, we want to chew it properly, prepare it in a certain way, and call for help, green grass powder, and all the other stuff which I have been talking about, right? And if you do your part, you will experience improvement in your condition for sure. And the time, as I have said, it would be really depending whether it will be weeks, whether months, or even a year, right? Now, eventually we would come to the second phase. And in the second phase, we would need to have already our gut quite healed. And we will try how far can we go with the fructose. What does it really mean? We want to start including low fructose fruits into our meals. For example, berries, right? Berries are very low in fructose, a wonderful antioxidant source. So this could be the first one you can try, right? Blueberries or blackberries or strawberries, really. So this would be one option you can do. Other fruits that are low in fructose are apricots, papayas, and even rubber, right? So these three you can try to include, but do not eat them as a standalone, as a meal on its own, as a snack, but firstly eat them as a dessert, if you will, after the main meal. Now, this is something which I do not recommend for healthy people, just because of the fermentation processes that are happening in the gut when we combine different acids from the fruits and the vegetables, right? However, in this condition, this is the way to go in the first place, right? So you want to try whether the fruit is doing any trouble or not this way, that you eat a little bit of fruit, low fructose fruit first after your meal, right? The logic behind is that glucose contained, for example, in rice or in the starches does help reabsorption of the fructose from the intestines. And so when we eat fruits such as apricot that have high amount of glucose than fructose, a small amount of fructose, it does help to reabsorb the fructose. And in that way, it doesn't most often cause trouble for people, right? So this is the way how you want to go about it in the second phase. Now, I would also encourage that you keep a track of the meal and to keep a meal diary, really, and to put there what have you eaten, not really how much, but what have you eaten at what time, and in case should there any symptoms, unpleasant symptoms occur, you will really know how much time has passed and if any, right? So this is the way how to approach it, I would recommend. Now, this can be a healthy process, a lengthy process, I want to say, not healthy, a lengthy process to recover the gut, but it is possible. And I would not really hesitate and waste time, for lack of a better term, to not to address this issue, because it can accumulate and it can bring on some other health conditions which we do not want. So this is my advice in a general state, how to approach the gut recovery and how to approach the fructose intolerance. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please consider subscribing and share the video with others who may be finding it helpful or perhaps who are struggling. Now, to approach it on your own without the knowledge and without really being familiar what is how the foods are working, how your body is working, can be quite overwhelming. And I would really recommend to talk to a professional, to talk to a nutritionist, to talk to someone who can help you to set up your meals and advise you for your condition, what is going on, and how to approach it in the best way, and who can also you can reach to if there's something occurs and you do not know how to move on, because this situation can come up, that something will happen, you wouldn't know how to move on to the next step, or if it is a time to move on to the next step, right? So if you can reach out to professionals such as myself or any other that can help you with that. So that's all for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.